Uhuru, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to StoryTime with the Uhuru Kijiji Childcare Collective, Black Power bedtime stories for kids. Where we share a revolutionary children's story time just before bedtime. My name is Rage. I am the National Project Coordinator of the UKCC and a member of the African National Women's Organization. Tonight, we will be reading Born on the Water, written by Nicole Hannah Jones and Renee Watson, and illustrated by Nicholas Smith. This story shares with us the history of African resistance and culture that has endured in spite of the enslavement and forced dispersal of our people. And let's get into the story. Questions. My teacher gives us an assignment. Who are you? She asks. Trace your roots. Draw a flag that represents your ancestral land. Most of my classmates can count back many generations and learn about the countries where their families come from. They draw their flags, but I leave my paper blank. I don't know where I begin, what my story is. At home, Grandma asks, how was school? I tell her about the assignment, how I couldn't finish it, how I can only count back 3 generations. Here in this country, where my parents, my grandparents, and my great grandparents were born. But before that, I do not know. I tell her that I am ashamed. Grandma gathers the whole family, says, come, let me tell you our beginning. Let me tell you where we're from. Grandma tells me. They say our people were born on the water, but our people had a home, a place, a land before they were sold. 400 years ago, in 1619, our ancestors were taken and brought here on a slave ship called the White Lion, a whole year before the Mayflower arrived. But before that dreadful voyage, there was a time when they did not pray for freedom. There was a time when they did not sing about overcoming. Their story does not begin with whips and chains. They had a home, a place, a land, a beginning. Their story is our story. Before they were enslaved, they were free. They had a language. They spoke Kimbundu and had their own words for love, for friend, for family. And the kingdom of Ndongo was nestled between the Lukala and the Kwanza rivers on a high plateau in West Central Africa. The people were good with their hands, knew the power of a seed, how to plant it, water it, how to make something out of nothing. The people were good with their minds, good at math and science. They used shells for money, counting, recording, trading. They knew what their work was worth. They spoke Kimbundu, had their own words for joy, for grow, for home. Their hands had a knowing. Their hands had a knowing. They knew how to hold a baby close, how to rock the child to keep her from crying. Their hands knew how to mix herbs, how to get the just right flavor for a meal. Their hands knew how to beat and twist and shape iron, how to make gardening tools, armor, and weapons. Their hearts had a knowing. They knew how to make work joyful, how to create rhythm by pounding the tools against metal, knew how to make music to keep them company as they worked. Their minds had a knowing. Worldly, curious, sharp. When they met the white people, they learned quick, taught their tongues to speak Portuguese, taught their eyes to read strange words. They knew how to mix the old with the new, how even an ancient people always had more to learn. And they danced, and the people moved their feet, moved their whole bodies to the melody of horns and stringed instruments, of marimbas and drums. They danced to celebrate, to mourn. They danced as a way of worship, to offer thanks. Their bodies a song under open sky and bright sun. Their bodies a swaying testament to the beauty of creation. Stolen, and the white people took them away, kidnapped them, baptized them in the name of their God, stamped them with new names. Ours is no immigration story. They did not get to pack bags stuffed with cherished things, with the doll grandma had woven from tall grass, with the baby blanket handed down from generation to generation, all the way back, so far back that it carried the scent of the ancestors. They could not hug their fathers and mothers, daughters and sons, hearts thumping in rhythm, clinging to that final sweetness before the parting. No promises whispered from mouth to ear of seeing each other soon. Just wails and sobs, confusion, and wrists worn raw from shackles made of iron, feet split and bloody from the 200-mile march along the Kwanza River. They had no things, but they had their minds. The old ways, the harvest songs, the just right mix of herbs etched into their memories. They had their bodies, histories, and bloodlines and drums pulsing in their veins. With trembling fingers, they braided seeds into their hair, defiantly hiding tiny pieces of home to plant one day in new soils. No matter what some say, the people fought, and the white people took them away, forced them into the bottom of an evil ship to sail to a new world they had no desire to see. Ours is no immigration story. The White Lion. No one knows how long it took before they knew they would never see Ndongo again, never run along the high plateau or throw their heads back and giggles with their best friends. Maybe it was the second month or the third when they had not seen their land or any land. For so many days, they could no longer count. Some could not bear the pain. They refused to eat. They shut their mouths until their hearts gave out. Others tossed themselves into the teal eternity of the Atlantic Ocean, swimming one last time with the ancestors. Sickness and hunger, filth and cruelty took the others, almost half. But those who did not die resolved to live no matter what. Packed in dark misery, strangers chained together, head to feet, hip to hip, in the bottom of a ship called the White Lion. They saw that these strangers, men, women, children, kidnapped too, from many villages, they were their people now. These many people became one people, a new people. And that is why the people say we were born on the water. We come from the people who refuse to die. Point Comfort. Finally, the ship stopped moving. The people were dragged to the deck. They closed their eyes against the light of the sun they had not seen since Mother Africa's coast. They closed their eyes against the sight of a land that was not theirs. They cried a silent cry as white men spoke strange words, talking about their bodies, and with a handshake, traded another's child, another's mama and daddy, 20 to 30 beloved human beings in all, for a few pounds of food and drink. 400 years ago, in the year 1619, the white people called this land Virginia, a sweet sounding word for a place of such pain, a sweet sounding word for the place where American slavery began. Tobacco fields. From sunup to sundown, the people worked the fields, growing and harvesting tobacco. The crops were sold to Europe, bringing wealth to Virginia. But the enslaved people did not get anything in return for their labor. The people worked and worked. When the people grew weary, they remembered their yesterdays, remembered their songs from Ndongo, sang them to ease their spirits. As they sang, they looked into the future, hoped for better days, planted prayers into the heavens, praying, praying, praying for freedom. How to make a home. After a long day's work, planting tobacco in the fields, after brutal treatment, after nothing to show for their hard work, sadness would come, a longing for Ndongo, for the mamas, for the daddies, for the friends they could no longer hug and talk with under the warm sun. We are in a strange land, they said, but we are here and we will make this home. We have our songs, our recipes, our know-how. We have our joy. We will love, laugh, sing, and hug our children as tight as you can hold a child. We will survive because we have each other. And so the people planted the seeds they carried over the ocean, snuck to visit one another in the dark of night, sang songs, swapped tales of yesterday, remembering, remembering. And the people planted dreams and hope, willed themselves to keep living, living. And the people learned new words for love, for friend, for family, for joy, for grow, for home. We are in a strange land, they said, but we are here and we will make this home. We have determination, imagination, faith. We will survive because we have each other. The Tuckers of Tidewater, Virginia, 1624. Anthony and Isabella, enslaved on the plantation of Captain William Tucker and his wife, Mary Tucker, two ordinary people forced to till the soil, forced to build a country they were not from, found a way to build a love for each other, to marry and create a family, a legacy. They did not know their family would be the start of a new people. They were just two ordinary people who had a son, a new beginning, a promise to live on and on. William Tucker. Hope is a promise. Faith that a better day will come. Belief that things will not always be this way. Hope is refusal to give up, to die out. Hope is a child born. Way back then, hope had a name, William Tucker. He was born to ordinary people, a man and a woman who were not free, but who believed in freedom, who were not free, but who believed that one day freedom would come, even if they never saw it. The two ordinary people gave life to an extraordinary child, a child not of Africa, a child not of Europe, nor of the native peoples already here, but a child of the new people formed on the water, the first Black child born in the land that would become the United States, the first truly American child. Resist. Life was hard, and it would get harder for the generations to come. White people told the people they were not human, that the people were things to be bought and sold and given as gifts alongside horses and chairs. When the people were beaten, they said the people did not feel pain. When they were sold the people's children, when they sold the people's children, they said the people did not love. These were lies they made up so they could feel okay about slavery. It was wrong, always and forever, to own human beings. It is wrong, always and forever, to treat human beings like things. The people fought back. For 250 years, the people resisted every day in ways big and small. For 250 years, the biggest resistance of all was that the people kept living. Legacy. And the people who were born on the water survived, kept living and living. It was illegal to teach enslaved people how to read, but they birthed generations of teachers and librarians, scholars and authors. They were brokenhearted, beaten, and bruised, but they became healers, pastors, and activists, doctors, and counselors. No one could steal the people's joy. They wrote songs, created jazz and hip hop, rhythm and blues. They became inventors and athletes, nurses and cooks, pilots and architects, farmers and housekeepers, singers and artists, dancers and poets, mathematicians and scientists. They passed on their stories through the stitch of a quilt, shared secret messages through songs. The people survived. The people fought. And because the people survived, and because the people fought, they finally got freedom. And because the people survived, and because the people fought, America has equality in the law. And because the people survived, and because the people fought, America began to live up to its promise of democracy. It is the people who fight for this democracy still. Uhuru, the end. That's the end of our story. At this time, we'd like to open it up for questions and discussion before we head into the announcements. Uhuru, Comrade Hada.
Uhuru.
So what did you think of this story?
I loved it. I guess I have a couple questions. What does born on the water mean? Is there anybody on who can answer that question?
I can answer it.
Anybody?
Everything on this is written in Japanese.
Same.
Go ahead.
Being,
Hi.
Uhuru, go ahead.
being born on a slave ship.
That's a good way to answer that. Does anybody want to add to that, or?
On the stomach.
Uhuru, this is Coco. I do want to answer. That was a good answer.
No.
As this book, unlike the adult version, does explain that we came when we were taken from the continent, we were many tribes. And because we were with many tribes, we during our passage, we were lumped all together, different tribes lumped together, and we had to become one people in order to survive. We had to learn each other languages. We had to learn each other cultures, learn each other spiritualities to be one person, one people, one Africa.
Uhuru, thank you, Coco.
Uhuru, comrade. Our next question is, what does the author mean when she says ours is no immigration story?
Uhuru, I can answer that. So we did not come to America to find a better way of life. We were forced to come here. We were brought here at the point of the bayonet, at gunpoint, and so we never intended to leave our homeland and come here and rebuild. That was not our intention. But we were stolen and we were kidnapped and we were forced to come here and build a country for the Europeans. And we don't get a lot of credit for all of the labor, for all of the death, the pain that our people have experienced as a part of that journey, as a part of being forcibly dispersed to this land.
Uhuru. What did this story make you think about? Like, what did it make you feel? Is there someone who had feelings about the story?
Me.
Hi.
Hi.
How did the story make you feel?
I'm happy.
It made you feel happy?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Was it because we found our footing? Was it because we still had love?
Love.
Oh, okay. All right. I get it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yes. Daddy.
Does anybody else want to share?
Hey, Jack.
Nice. Nana, talk about the book. Nana. Nana.
How did the book make you feel, Hadan?
It made me angry at first, and then it made me hopeful. We didn't come on our own, but we're here, and we have become doctors and lawyers and senators. And I think that out of everything, the story reminded me where I come from. It reminded me how our people got to where we are today and how much more work there is to do.
Uhuru, I felt like really sad, longing for that place, longing for our home, our language, the pictures, kind of showing what life could have been like for us, and the freedom that our people had before they were stolen. I felt jealous of that. And then I felt angry once I saw the way that our people were taken from that. And then I felt hopeful. But as I listened to all the things that our people became and have accomplished, I just couldn't help but think of what that could have been like if we had never been stolen. And it made me just really wish we could go back home.
Yeah.
But like the book says, like, we're here and we do have an opportunity to unite as one people and create a better world for ourselves.
Why do you good?
Oh, I was gonna say I felt Haddad just like you when it came to a bittersweet, but when I heard how, and we know what happened, but just listening to the story and when they all jumped into the water, some intentionally jumped to get away, I said, well, my goodness, this explains why all mermaids come from Africa. Because I don't know if you guys follow that, but mermaids are real. And so I never really thought about where did they come from until just this little children's book of thinking, what if they were saved? Because our deities come from the water. They are of the lake, of the sea, of the ocean. And so what if those are our protectors, our ancestors under there? So it made me smile and I felt love when I heard that part. Just like the little one.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that. Was there anyone else who wanted to comment on that?
I'm gonna go ahead and comment this Coco again. Uhuru, I do unite. I can actually unite both you, Hada, and Rage and Bola stated where you have is two different concepts, but they are the same. Like we are one people, and out of this one people, we've been able to take our oppression and create beautiful things. As the book stated, we created jazz, we created rock and roll, we created blues, we created modern contemporary writing. We created a lot of things here because just of who we are as a people, and And our ancestry is with us. You know, our music, you know, when we listen to our music, just using music as an example, when we look at our music is directly reflected to traditional percussion.
Yeah.
You know, but also it's like when you all said, like, you know, it is bittersweet, but the sweet part is the revolution when we make it happen.
Yeah.
When we free and we're able to establish that bridge between continental Africans and the rest of the African diaspora, because it's not just America, it was the Caribbean, it was South and Central America, where our people were taken, and we're still those one people. You know, when we connect these bridges and set us free from colonialism, it's going to be a beautiful thing. And that's the sweet, sweet part. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru Coco.
Uhuru
Okay.
Coco.
Yeah.
I felt that deep.
I felt that. I was like, yes.
Rage, though, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Why do you think it was important to read this book?
Well, coming up, I didn't have stories about where I came from.
Mhm.
And I grew up in a place called Portland, Oregon, that is a primarily like white place. In the whole state of Oregon, it's only 6% African. And so I was extremely isolated from my community, and I had no idea about where I came from and who my people were. And I had to get a lot of that information from wherever I could get it.
Mhm.
And this story lays out our history in a way that youth can really, I think, understand and begin to have conversations about African history that is not whitewashed. Um, I've never read a children's book that said the white people came and kidnapped us. And that's the truth. The white people came and kidnapped us. And it's important for us to know our history so that we can progress in the future.
Uhuru, thank you for that. And I appreciate the book as well. I'm from South Jersey, so lots of times we didn't get these books either. We read about Frederick Douglass. We read about all the, safe Black people, but we didn't actually read about, slavery and how we got here and, the progression of our people. So yeah, I absolutely agree. So, what is Black community control of education?
I think it's just this. I think it's like being able to provide the truth to our children about our experience as African people in a colonized place. The truth that they're not going to get in a colonial institution, in a school, in a public school. Very rarely are they going to discuss these topics and tell the truth about it in a way that doesn't cast white people as like this like unassuming character in a story. Like these people definitely played a part in our oppression and continue to do so. And I think it's about building our kids up and providing them the knowledge necessary to develop in a real way with an understanding of who they are as African people.
Absolutely. And I think the UKCC plays a large role in that. We are here to help educate our children, to help educate our parents, to create revolutionaries, to create a society wherein our children are safe. They're safe from the state. They're safe from, the street. They're safe. So, which is why we're trying to build UKCCs all over the country. So parents know that their children are safe and taken care of and being properly educated, being properly nourished, and being loved. So yeah, I love this book. Did anybody else have any comments?
I'll go ahead and hop in here one more time.
Come
And
on.
this is based off community. Being a parent, I'm a newer parent, but being a parent, I've always felt like we had to have chunks. Okay. I've always felt like we had to have community control of education, but even more as a parent and a parent of an African male child. And the system, I mean, even like African boys are, I believe, like 5 times more likely, even in preschool, to be expelled than any other demographic. So knowing that I have a child that could potentially become a part of this system in compulsory education, it makes me even want to fight even harder for, community control of education, because we need to make sure that our children do not fall into the school to prison pipeline, making sure they do have cultural knowledge and cultural values and traditions, and have something to live for besides being a puppet in the capitalist system. It's something that's very, very important that we go ahead and develop, because our children are our future, and we can't be free unless our kids is free too. Right. So, I mean, that's my tidbit on that. Uhuru.
Uhuru Coco. Thank you.
Uhuru Coco. And you're right. As a mother of a 21-year-old African boy, it's our responsibility to instill the confidence in them at home, so that when they do go out in this colonial white world, that they could be the only one in a position, which my son has been in many times. They have to be able to stand their ground. And if we don't let them know who they are at a young age, they won't be able to do that. Yeah. So Uhuru to you, because it's very important as mothers, but not just mothers of daughters, mothers of our African boys who we need to raise to become leaders.
Yeah. And our daughters are twice as likely to disappear. There's so many African, girls and women who have disappeared, and no one knows what happened to them. And it's important, like you said, for us to teach our children how to stay safe, how to say no, how to walk away, how to run away. So yeah, that is really, really important as far as parenting. It's hard. It's really hard, but we got to do it.
I want to pass it to Parrish. Comrade Parrish had her hand up for a minute.
I got on a little late, but I definitely appreciate the story. I'm going to buy the book. And I just wanted to speak kind of to what Coco and Ebola were saying, raising African boy children. And as Coco had said about the statistic, it's very important that, as our children begin to develop language, that they could tell the world who they are. And as we send them out into these spaces, that oftentimes X out our identities, or say, like these days with this critical race theory, that we came here on our own as indentured servants, or whatever they say these days, that our children are able to teach other African children, to not carry any shame in being African. And there's another statistic, by the time that African boys reach 3rd grade, they've already decided whether or not they're going to participate in the American school system, or they're not going to participate at all, which attributes to the dropout rates, and us finding different ways outside of the system to make a means for ourselves with different types of economies. So I definitely appreciate the story and the discussion. So
I just wanted to add also, because I have a 12-year-old and he's African and he's Chippewa. He's indigenous as well. And they see our children and our children are immediately targeted. And they orchestrate every possible way to keep them from aspiring to be anything. And so I think it was, I forget who said it, but it's also about like instilling that confidence in your child, your son, your child, and making them to feel proud of who they are, making sure they know who they are. Like Parrish said, so they can, you know, be a role model for other African and indigenous children around them. And also just that strength that comes with it, you know, that these people over here are going to paint you any and every which way. And they all have a preconceived notion of who you are and what your purpose is in this world. And we have, as parents, have a responsibility to ensure that our children have the strength to fight. And educating them is a way of providing that to them as well. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Are there any more comments?
I got one more. It just came to my mind.
Go ahead.
When I first met Chairman, it had to be what, 08? And we were talking, I was in college, and you know, he said, you know, we can either teach, because I was in a student organization at that time. We can either look at education to prepare our kids to be second-class citizens for the United States or for this colonial imperialistic system, or we can raise them to be first-class citizens of the African nation. And I want to raise my child to be a first-class citizen, to be a leader. I'm a leader within his community, you know, and to make change. All of my kids to make change and know who they are, and to be good humans in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Rach, anybody else have anything to say? Any other hands up?
I wanted to see if Comrade Amanda had anything to say about Black community control of education.
Yes.
Uhuru. So yeah, I mean, in regards to Black community control of education, if the colonizer wasn't trying to keep our children colonized, they wouldn't attack, you know, community control of education, right? Because they know that if we are educating our children at home, if we are teaching them the things that we need to teach them at home, then they can't have control over their minds, which is what they want, you know? And so that's why I appreciate this time. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm moving, but appreciate this conversation and allowing space for us to come together to have these discussions, to talk about how important it is for us to have Black community control of education.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. So if there's no one else who has anything to add or any comments they want to make, we can start with the announcements. Okay. So first announcement. The Hands Off Africa Defense campaign invites you all to attend the monthly mass meeting featuring APSP and Uhuru movement leaders who were strategically targeted by the FBI and identified as indicted co-conspirators during the violent and simultaneous pre-dawn raids on July 29th, 2022. Join the online webinar and learn what you can do to support this counteroffensive against the July 29th FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party, Uhuru movement, and the African liberation struggle. We are not retreating, we're building. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Register today at tinyurl.com/hands-off meeting. The African National Women's Organization calls on Black women, pardon me, and our supporters to attend the Black Women's Convention. The BWC is an annual gathering of our members and working class Black women who believe that capitalist colonialism must be destroyed in order for African women to be free. We organize these conferences because we believe that by building an organization that is dedicated to raising deep struggle against the devastating impact of colonialism on the lives of African women around the world, we will fortify our efforts to defeat capitalism, despite our borders or our condition. The first night of our convention will be a social gathering at the Uhuru House in St. Louis, where we'll enjoy food, music, and spoken word. You don't want to miss this. So register today at convention.amwouhuru.org. Join us for the second annual Black Mothers March on the White House. The Black Mothers March on the White House is a coalition of Black-led organizations that have been involved in the struggle to rescue our children from the custody of the state. We exist to expose the systemic attack on Black women and the Black family by the US government. The US government has been able to perpetrate this terror on our communities under the guise of protecting children, using the Department of Human Services, often referred to as Child Protective Services. So register for the BMM at blackmothersmarch.com. The African National Women's Organization needs your help to support the work of the Uhuru Kijiji Childcare Collective. If you enjoyed tonight's story and would like to support this and other projects coming out of the UKCC, we call on you to donate. Our goal for tonight's story time is $100. You can make your contribution by going to amwouhuru.org/donate. Choose one-time donation or become a sustainer. You can also Cash App us at @amwouhuru. Support ANWO's economic development project, Decolonize Hair and Body. Decolonize Hair and Body are natural personal care products that highlights the natural ingredients and traditional care practices used by Indigenous people around the world. With products like Imperialism is Dying, Pudding and Liberation, Hydrating Mist, you're sure to find something to complement your needs. Support today by volunteering with us, joining our marketing committee, and purchasing from our website at decolonize.com. Lastly, we call on African women from around the world to join the African National Women's Organization, the only anti-colonial, anti-imperialist revolutionary organization for Black women. We have members in Africa, Europe, and the United States. So join the international collective of women building the revolutionary capacity of African women. Join our Uhuru Kijiji Childcare Collective. Help organize revolutionary childcare collectives that support African children and protect African mothers. When African mothers are supported, then they can support the African Revolution. To learn more about membership and join, visit anwouhuru.org/join. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening for tonight's reading of Born on the Water. We hope to see you next time. Uhuru.
Uhuru, everybody. Thank you.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.